Welcome to Sound Bites, hosted by registered dietitian nutritionist Melissa Joy Dobbins. Let's delve into the science, the psychology, and the strategies behind good food and nutrition.
Hello, and welcome back to the Sound Bites podcast. I'm your host, Melissa Joy Dobbins, a registered dietitian nutritionist. Today's episode is about the potential role of fresh avocados in weight management and the gut microbiome. Specifically, a 12-week randomized parallel controlled trial published in the journal Current Developments in Nutrition in June of 2019. My guest today is Marisa Moore. She's an award-winning registered dietitian nutritionist based in Atlanta, Georgia. She's an integrative dietitian specializing in culinary nutrition communications. She spends her days doing a variety of work in front of and behind the camera as a media dietitian and content creator at marisamore.com. And she's also a spokesperson for Fresh Avocados Love One Today. Welcome to the show, Marisa.
Hi, Melissa. Thanks so much for having me on. I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, me too. I'm so excited to finally have you on the show.
Yes.
It's been a long time coming. We first met back in 2011 or so when I became a spokesperson for the Academy of Nutrition and Dietetics, and you were already a spokesperson then.
Yes. I can't believe it's been that long. I had no idea.
Here we are in 2020. Yeah, so I really got to know you then because we attended a lot of meetings together and trainings, and we got to work together. But this is the first time that we've worked together in quite some time. So I'm really happy to have you on the show. And I'd love for you to share a little bit more about your background. But first, I want to share some important information. This episode is sponsored by Fresh Avocados Love One Today. And of course, we thank them for their sponsorship and support of the podcast. Love One Today is a science-based food and wellness education program that encourages Americans to include fresh Hass avocados in everyday healthy eating plans to help increase fruit and vegetable intake and as a delicious, heart-healthy, whole food source of fiber and naturally good fats. And of course, we're going to be talking all things avocado today with this research. But this podcast episode is also eligible for one half of one free continuing professional education unit for dietitians through the Commission on Dietetic Registration. You can visit the show notes at soundbitesrd.com/podcast for more information. So Marisa, tell us more about your background and your work.
Sure. So I am a registered dietitian nutritionist, and I specialize in integrative and culinary nutrition. And so that means that I really look at the whole person, but I have this real passion for food and research and nutrition. So all of those things combined, I just love it. I feel so fortunate, honestly, to be in this profession. It's sometimes hard to explain to people, but I've worked in the media for years, and I really do take pride in sharing current, credible nutrition information for the public. There's so much noise. And I kind of get a kick out of just digging into the research and seeing what's actually real and sharing that with people in digestible bites and as much as possible with recipes that actually taste good and that are easy for people to implement some of that education that they're getting. So that's where I spend a lot of my time. And of course, I'm here today as a spokesperson for Love One Today. And I'm excited to share, some of that fresh avocado research contributing to the growing body of evidence supporting eating fresh avocados as a nutritious and satisfying food choice.
Wonderful. I just have to say, I love it when you do get back in front of the camera because you do a lot of food photography and you're doing more videos now. And whether you're in front of the camera or behind it, it's just really excellent work. And recently, I think the most recent recipe of yours I tried was the Instant Pot mac and cheese. And it's such a hit. I think I've made it like 6 or 7 times since then. And I've actually doubled the recipe because I was like, this is just going so fast. I need to double the recipe. So I did the math and did some testing on that. I'm really proud of myself. But thank you. Because as you know, when I saw your post, I thought, okay, I'm going to give this a try because I am not quite getting the Instant Pot thing yet. Well, this recipe makes me get it. Like, okay, it's easy. I can do it. So thank you.
I am so, when you, like, we were on Instagram for people who don't know, we were on Instagram and you're like, oh, I'm going to try this recipe. So I was super excited when you came back and you said it worked. That honestly just warmed my heart when I know people have tried it. And I know that you found something that's easy for you and your family. So
Yeah.
happy to hear it and happy to share.
Yes, thank you. So we want everybody to check those recipes out too. So thank you for being a spokesperson for Loved One today and talking about this research. So let's dive into the research. And of course, we're going to share some practical tips for everybody listening. Now, the study is titled Hass Avocado Inclusion in a Weight Loss Diet Supported Weight Loss and Altered Gut Microbiota, a 12-week randomized parallel control trial, and it was published in Current Developments in Nutrition. Now, the study was supported by the Hass Avocado Board as part of the Level 1 Today education program. So, Marisa, let's first talk about what was the aim or the purpose of this study?
The misperception that eating fat causes weight gain may lead consumers to avoid nutritious foods like avocados, which are primarily composed of beneficial monounsaturated fats. Besides good fats, avocados are a good source of dietary fiber and offer a variety of other important nutrients such as vitamin K, pantothenic acid, copper, and folate. Previous studies supported by the Hass Avocado Board investigated how avocado consumption affects inflammation, vascular function, and satiety and hunger. This sparked exploration of the impact of eating one avocado a day on body weight, body composition, and overall health. So it's actually quite exciting to look into this.
Excellent. I think a lot of people know, anybody who lived through the fat-free craze in the 90s or whatever know that, thank God, we're not there anymore. And we learned from that the types of fats we want in our diet, yes, the majority need to be healthy fats. And I think people, well, first of all, they know avocados are delicious, but they might have heard that they're high in fat. Hopefully they've heard that they're the good kind of fat, but I wonder if many people know about the fiber and those other nutrients that you mentioned. But I digress. So let's talk about the methodology of this study. How many people were in the study? How long was it? Can you talk about that a little?
Sure. So this was a randomized parallel control trial, and it included 51 healthy participants who were between the ages of 20 to 60 years old, and they all had a BMI of 27 to 35. So they were in that overweight or obese range. Each were randomly assigned to a hypocaloric meal plan, either with or without one fresh Hass avocado per day for 12 weeks. Now, they also received biweekly counseling from a registered dietitian.
Excellent. Now, regarding the hypocaloric diet, do you know how this was defined? Can you explain that further?
Sure. So all participants were on a 500 calorie deficit, and it was 30 to 35% calories from fat, 15 to 20% from protein, and 45 to 55% from carbohydrates. So it was certainly a really natural mix of macronutrients.
And just kind of a funny, it wasn't a blind control trial because obviously if you're getting an avocado or not. And I feel bad for those who didn't get it. But anyway.
I know. I was thinking the exact same thing. Like, how do I sign up for
right.
the non-control group?
Right, exactly. So let's discuss the findings or the key takeaways and what they mean for our health.
Sure.
So I know that there's several. So just go ahead and we'll discuss those.
So there were several key takeaways to consider when looking at this study. The first was body weight and composition. Both the control and avocado groups experienced weight loss and reduced BMI, total body fat, and visceral adipose tissue. So they all experienced some of that. Now, looking at satiety, though, study participants that ate an avocado daily as part of the hypocaloric diet, they all self-reported a similar feeling of satiety throughout the study, compared to a decrease in satiety reported by participants on the control diet. So we're seeing here that looks like the group who had the avocado had a similar feeling of satiety throughout the study, but those on the control side didn't have that same one. And looking at the gut microbiome, this is honestly some of the stuff that's so fascinating to me. It seems gut microbiome research is developing every single day. There's something new.
Mm-hmm.
And so I was excited to see these findings as well. So looking at the gut microbiome, the gut microbiota composition changed in response to both diets, with the composition differing a little bit between the two groups. Specifically, the relative proportion of bacterial phyla that help to ferment those plant fibers were significantly altered in the avocado group compared with the control group. So that was, a really interesting find there.
So for those listeners who may not be dietitians or healthcare professionals, can you put that more into a little bit more layman's terms? Like, what does that mean?
Yeah, so our gut microbiota, we've probably heard of it as gut bacteria or good and bad bacteria in the gut. And there's some interesting research around how this gut bacteria might actually help us in a variety of different ways, from helping with metabolism to digestion to a variety of other things. Now, this wasn't necessarily looked at in this study, but just speaking in general.
Mm-hmm.
And the idea is that diet can influence these gut bacteria, and we actually want to kind of diversify and improve the numbers of good gut bacteria so that we get more of those potential benefits.
Great.
So another key takeaway was around inflammation. So people in the avocado group experienced a significant reduction in blood levels of the inflammatory marker hepatocyte growth factor. So there's that benefit. But then when we look at all of these together, the study really demonstrated that including one Hass avocado daily in a hypocaloric diet not only supported weight loss efforts, but it also offered additional potential metabolic and anti-inflammatory benefits.
Okay, great.
Yeah.
From a layman's terms, then it kind of sounds like the weight loss between the two groups was similar. Well, they were both on the hypocaloric, the 500 calorie deficit, and having an avocado as a part of their caloric intake didn't change that. They had similar weight loss, but it sounds like the people who had the avocado weren't as hungry. And it sounded like there were some positive things going on in the gut microbiome and with the anti-inflammatory.
Yeah, absolutely. I would agree with everything you said. And, just to go back to the point about satiety, it really does make a difference when we have something that actually makes us feel satisfied that we're eating, because it can really impact some of the choices that we might make later in the day, but also just how we feel about what we've eaten. It might put you in a better mood.
Absolutely. And, this was a 12-week study, which is quite long.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're thinking long-term behavior change and eating habits for weight maintenance, weight management, you don't want to be hungry. You want to be satiated while keeping your calories down. So, yeah.
Absolutely. I think that is so important. It's something that I could probably talk about all day.
And it's not just is your tummy full, but to your point, like, I really enjoy this food.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me feel good. I know personally that I just get really excited when I have avocados in the house and I get to have a little treat. So
exactly. Yeah. Now, we do have to mention that, as with all research, this study has some limitations, right? The study population size was limited, so it's unknown whether these results can really be generalized to the U.S. population, the general U.S. population. We'll definitely need to see some additional long-term intervention trials to assess the effect of avocado intake on body weight, BMI, gut microbiota, and the clinical health markers in a larger U.S. representative population. And we'll also need to see some additional trials looking at using just one serving of avocado versus a whole avocado. Yeah. So those are a few things that I'm actually looking forward to learning more about. Now, the Hass Avocado Board continues to work with researchers to learn more, and I look forward to keeping up with these findings and the growing evidence that avocados, definitely one of my favorite fruits, are a nutritious and delicious food that supports health in so many different ways.
Yes. We always say more research is needed to answer some of the questions that research brings up or to replicate results. And so I look forward to learning more as well. So can you talk to me a little bit about how these results compare to other similar studies or previous studies on avocados?
There was another recent clinical trial published in the scientific peer-reviewed journal of Nutrients. The full name of the trial is Using the Avocado to Test the Satiety Effects of a Fat Fiber Combination in Place of Carbohydrate Energy in a Breakfast Meal in Overweight and Obese Men and Women. It was a randomized clinical trial. Now, in it, scientists found that in 31 healthy overweight or obese adults, eating a whole avocado as part of a breakfast meal compared to a meal with no avocado suppressed hunger and improved meal satisfaction. Satiety was measured by a visual analog scale up to 6 hours after the meal. As in all research, the study has its limitations, so more research is needed to generalize the results to all people. However, these findings support the growing body of evidence connecting eating avocados and a positive impact on body weight and satiety. And this study was also funded by the Hass Avocado Board. Now, talk about a breakfast of champions.
Yeah. Now, you had mentioned a little bit ago about research looking at the serving size versus the whole avocado.
Mm-hmm.
And I believe the serving size is 1/3.
Yes.
That's not my serving size. But it is. Okay.
I know, yeah. That is the official serving.
Okay.
1/3. So it would be interesting to see, because the two trials that we've talked about do feature a whole avocado. So it would be interesting to see if there are any differences with just a third or even a half, because I know a lot of people use that as a way to, they might slice it in half and use 1/2 today, 1/2 tomorrow, or 1/2 in the morning and one for lunch.
Exactly. It's a little hard to slice it into thirds, and but definitely half. Then I have to share the rest of it with my family. So.
Yeah. Once it's open, right? I want to go ahead and make sure we do that.
Yep, absolutely. Okay.
Yeah. But speaking about breakfast, because it's honestly one of my favorite topics, I always think about breakfast and I think about staying power because it really does help me to get up and going for the day. And the way I structure my day, most of the time I am working from home. Sometimes I'm out doing things, but most of the time I'm working from home, and the mornings tend to be my most productive hours. I might be writing, I could be working on recipes, taking photos, and, moving about. So I need something that's going to kind of hold me for a while. So I often have avocados for breakfast. And, this is something that I often share with people in terms of clients that I might work with or just the general public. You can do so many different things with avocados, especially in the mornings. You might say blend them into a smoothie. A lot of times people forget that that's a great way to add creaminess and texture and body to smoothies. Or avocados pair really well with eggs. So you can use an avocado as the cup to hold your scrambled eggs, or you can even bake an egg in there. And of course, there's a ton of avocado toast possibilities. So I don't know about you, but I really do think of avocados as a real breakfast of champions.
Absolutely. I eat them any time of day, but, and I know we want to share some practical tips and recipes. And so I'll just say, I don't boast a lot about my culinary skills. I admire people like you, Marisa, but I got to tell you, I make a pretty good guacamole.
Wow, I can't wait.
My family actually, my kids have realized that, they basically say that I've ruined them for other guacamole because they love the way I make it. They'll still eat it when they're not in my house, but they, are always comparing it. But ever since I saw it prepared tableside in a restaurant, I said, I can replicate that. So that's our favorite thing. But yeah, even just slicing it in half, scooping it out, and slicing it with a little bit of salt, maybe a little bit of lime. Something as simple as that is a great way. And I know we're going to talk a little bit later about some more tips and recipes, because I want to hear what other ideas that you can share, some practical tips with our listeners. And one thing that I learned about avocados that I really love is that I get them when they're not ripe and I put them on the counter. They ripen. And when I think they're just about perfect, I put them in the refrigerator and they stay at that perfect ripeness for quite some time. So I can use them slowly over, several days or a week even, and have a little bit more control over, when I'm ready to make my guacamole or just slice them up. So what are some more ways that you like to enjoy avocados, or that you have suggestions or recipes to share with our listeners?
Absolutely. So I mentioned avocado toast, and it might be my number one go-to. mainly because it's really versatile. I sometimes will just keep it simple with a drizzle of olive oil, salt, and pepper, just super simple. But lately I've been adding crunchy roasted chickpeas to the top.
Mm.
Yeah, so it adds a nice crunch, some extra protein and texture. I love it. But probably one of my easiest things is just to add an egg to the top for breakfast or for lunch. And sometimes I'll sprinkle on everything bagel seasoning or a little sriracha. It just kind of depends on what kind of mood I'm in. That's very common. Now, this one, I have another one that I'm going to share. This is another avocado toast topping idea. I could do like 20 of these, honestly. But for a sweet treat, I will drizzle with a little bit of honey and add in some toasted walnuts.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's sweet, it's creamy, it's crunchy, everything that you might want. You can have it for dessert, you can have it for lunch, breakfast, however, but definitely try that. The options are really endless. And I use them in so many other ways. And I'm glad that you mentioned the tip about how you store your fresh avocados. It's something that I do as well. I will buy them up, at the beginning of the week and leave them on the counter or in the pantry. And I kind of monitor them and wait until they are ripe. And I'll put them in the fridge and they definitely last a lot longer. And that's something that I discovered not that long ago, actually. And it makes a huge difference in just being able to use them longer. But like all fruits and vegetables, I make sure I wash my avocados before I use them. And one other thing that I have to share with everyone, and I don't know if you've tried this, Melissa, but I love to, especially with a nice ripe avocado, you take it and you put it into a food processor or a blender with some cocoa powder. And the sweetener of choice, I like to use maple syrup because it adds like a depth of flavor, like a caramelness almost to it, to whip up the easiest, most delicious chocolate pudding that you could actually ever make. It's the simplest thing. And if you happen to have a cold, ripe avocado, or it doesn't even have to be cold, in the fridge, it's the perfect way to whip up just a simple and easy dessert any night of the week. Have you tried that?
I have not tried that, but everything you're saying just sounds so amazing. I would never come up with that on my own. I have a question then. You said as far as washing the avocado, I've talked about washing produce on other podcast episodes. So when you say wash, is that just maybe with tap water and like a scrub brush, or is there another way that you're supposed to wash them?
That's an excellent question. So the best way to wash is just by applying some friction under running water. So it could be with your hands, it could be with a scrub brush, either way is fine. But just be mindful, if you're using a brush or something, you don't want to bruise it or cause any damage. So just be mindful of that and don't, get too aggressive. But just having some friction under cold running water, that will be all you need.
That's all you need to quote unquote wash it.
Exactly.
Because we always talk about washing produce and, it really is kind of rinsing it. But also with the, like you said, with your fingers or something to don't just run it under the water, but just get the skin, but don't bruise it. There's actually a lovely tear out sheet in the latest issue of Today's Dietitian from Love One Today about picking, storing, and preparing fresh avocados. So I encourage people to get that. And of course, we've got some websites and some resources, but we're not ready for all that yet. Let's go back to with the research. Given everything that we were talking about with the research, what do researchers believe to be the reasons behind the many benefits of eating avocados? Can we kind of break that down a little bit more?
Sure. First, as you know, everyone's metabolism is different, especially when it comes to gut health. So no definitive statements can be made yet. And again, this featured study was done over a relatively limited time frame and with participants in the United States only. So longer-term studies on a larger and more diverse population are needed to draw any conclusions.
Okay.
We do, however, know avocados are a good source of dietary fiber, 3 grams per 1/3 of a medium avocado, making them a great fresh fruit option to help boost fiber intake. Consuming foods rich in fiber may reduce the risk of heart disease, obesity, and type 2 diabetes. Now, other reasons why I recommend fresh avocados to my clients is that they have a unique nutrient profile, such as contributing nearly 20 minerals, vitamins, and phytonutrients. They're also essentially the only fruit with good fats. 5 grams of monounsaturated fat, 1 gram polyunsaturated fat, per third of a medium avocado. And as we know, replacing saturated fat with unsaturated has been shown to have a variety of health benefits. Plus, eating dietary fat helps the body absorb vitamins A, D, K, and E, essentially acting as a nutrient booster for other foods eaten in the diet.
Okay, well, I know we talked about some practical tips and strategies, but for everybody listening, if there are dietitians listening, is there anything else we want to share with them about how they can share with their clients or just for anybody to try at home? Like I said, I know we already shared some interesting tips and strategies, but I don't want to forget anything that you might have to share.
Sure. So my first tip is to explore and share the research. We know lifestyle changes can be difficult to make, so we want to make sure that our recommendations are always backed by science and when possible, specific to the needs and tastes of our clients. And I think that's something that's so important. We always want to pay attention to, who the study was done on and how does that actually apply to the people we're working with. And keeping tabs on the latest clinical trials really does strengthen what I know about the growing body of evidence about the health benefits of avocados. So it's really an exciting time. And I'm, so excited to continue to share this information here, as well as with the people that I work with. We also want to lead by encouraging baby steps. We know that small changes can make the most difference. And opting for snacks that offer good sources of fiber, for example, can really help clients to be more successful with reaching their healthy living goals. I think I may have hinted at this a little bit earlier, but I really like to inspire creativity in the kitchen. So it's not enough for us to just talk about all these health benefits. This is really great. And, all the nutrients is awesome. But we do have to find ways to put that education into action and inspire people to be creative in the kitchen. You mentioned how you make sure that your ripe avocados go into the refrigerator. I think that's such an important thing for us to let people know about because that's a way for them to be able to extend the life so that they can use them longer and get all those health benefits. I've talked about chocolate pudding here today. We talked about avocado toast and guacamole, which I think is sometimes the first place that people are introduced to avocados. And I think that's a flavorful and amazing way to do it. But there are so many options. And now, Melissa, honestly, all I want to do is just taste your guacamole. I have to be honest with you.
Well, we'll have to make that happen somehow. So.
Yes.
It's quite simple, but it's the right balance of flavors, which I know you can appreciate.
Yes.
But yeah, and also as you're talking, it's making me think, we also want to be careful about food waste. And with that refrigeration tip, it's so painful to have an overripe avocado that you are going to waste, but maybe there are some of these recipes and tips that if it's not going to be firm enough to slice up and put on top of a salad, it's a little less firm, then it's going to be better for whipping up into the chocolate pudding or something like that.
Or putting it into a smoothie.
Yeah.
Or freezing them to use them later. There's so many different ways that you can do that because even if it's frozen and you whip it into a frosty smoothie, then, oh, wow, you have a brand new treat, a brand new idea.
Excellent. And of course, loveonetoday.com has a whole collection of recipes.
I really like to inspire creativity in the kitchen, and putting that education into action is really important. So make sure that you visit loveonetoday.com where you'll get a whole collection of simple, delicious, and nutritious avocado recipes from breakfast to dessert and everything in between. So I'm confident that these recipes will for sure inspire anyone to get cooking with healthy avocados.
Excellent. Yummy. Where can people find out more about this study and other resources? Because I know you mentioned the recipes, but I know there's a ton of resources available.
Check out the Health Professionals tab over on loveonetoday.com. There you'll find more about the research that we talked about today, as well as summaries of many other trials. There's also a variety of free educational materials, including healthy eating avocado plans. So you can find healthy eating avocado meal plans, handouts, and a great collection of tasty, easy to make recipes. Now, another thing that I think would be helpful to kind of keep this top of mind, loveonetoday.com also has a newsletter exclusively for health professionals. and which I recommend signing up for it so that you'll always have the latest research right there in your inbox. You'll also get some additional information, tips, and fresh avocado recipe ideas right to your email.
Wonderful. And all of the links that we talked about with regard to the research or the website or the resources will be in my show notes at soundbitesrd.com. And people can also follow Love One Today on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, all the social media platforms. Well, Marisa, thank you so much for sharing all of this valuable information. And thank you to everybody listening. Please stay tuned for the next episode of this series coming up this summer, where I will interview another expert on all things avocado and healthy living. Thanks again, Marisa.
Thanks, Melissa. Have a great one.
You too. And for everybody listening, as always, enjoy your food with health in mind. Till next time.
For more information, visit soundbitesrd.com. Music by Dave Burke, produced by Jag in Detroit Podcasts.